Hi everybody, what's going on? Welcome to Sit Down. I'm DJ Sixsmith. We did not plan this. It just happened on its own.
happened.
This is Roland. How are you, sir?
Good, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks so much for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So you got a lot of cool stuff going on in your life right now.
I do. I'm on a hot streak.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from Dear Evan Hansen to Be More Chill to Billions. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, but take me back. We're just talking off camera. New York kid, grew up here in the city, lived out on Long Island. So who were some of your inspirations early on?
Early on, like when I was like young, I was so into like Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey especially is like I can remember like quoting, you know, the entirety of The Mask as a young person. And then also, I always enjoyed like doing impressions, and I used to do like a really killer Jimmy Stewart impression when I was a kid. I would do the like, I loved It's a Wonderful Life. You know, please, Clarence, let me live again. I want to live again. You know, I've been doing that since I was like 6.
That's awesome.
And then in high school, in middle school and high school, I started doing theater, and you know, I went to we moved out to Long Island when I was younger, and I had a great theater program out there, and I sort of became, I fell in love with theater and musical theater and all that stuff. And then when I was in college, I really found a lot of inspiration and continue to from people like Jerry Orbach. I think like that dude had like the most incredible, amazing career. Steve Buscemi is a huge inspiration to me. Steve Carell. I'm really into these actors who like really are like character actors of the highest caliber, but who also don't limit themselves to like, oh, I only play this kind of role, or I only do
take some risks,
musicals,
you know?
or I only do TV, or they sort of they do it all.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the whole theater thing. I mean, there's no better place than Broadway. You're on Broadway now, but when you were a young kid, like what were the main shows that you liked to check out?
The first show that I saw on Broadway was Cats, which is true for
classic.
lots and lots of people. And I just had the greatest time at that show. I was so like taken in by the spectacle of it, and I like knew all the songs. I could sing the entire album.
Hooked.
I was fully hooked on Cats, and I did. You know, I sort of learned that whole album, and then just one after another, I would learn cast album after cast album after cast album, and I was like a big theater dork.
And you were playing these on CDs too. It's not like you were streaming on Spotify or anything.
No, I had to get those CDs. I actually remember getting a Sam Goody gift card.
Oh wow!
And going to Sam Goody and buying the Sunday in the Park with George cast album CD, and that was how I became acquainted with like what is now like one of my favorite musicals in the entire world.
And you'd play the whole CD. Like
the whole
you weren't
thing.
skipping around like you were on your iPod.
Well, I mean, there's always, once you've heard it once or twice, you're like, I'm gonna skip this one. I don't really care for the one on the left.
But yeah, just a totally different experience growing up. And you know, I'm in my mid-20s, you're in your 30s, like kids in their teenage years, I can't really even connect with what we went through as kids.
Yeah,
you know?
it's a different. We had to hunt in a certain way, but also, you know, I mean, that sort of ties in beautifully with like the miracle of Be More Chill. You know, the way that these streaming platforms make art accessible and really sort of democratize our access to the things that we want to hear. You know, if Be More Chill had happened in the 90s, people would have had to like mail each other their CDs. I mean,
totally
you know,
different experience.
Yeah, it would have been a really different thing. And so the way that this show sort of took off online is very 21st century.
So we were talking before, like this is a show about people in their 30s kind of looking back on the past, but you guys have really hit with teenagers. So how did this whole thing explode from going off Broadway to where you guys are now?
So the show had its world premiere in 2015 at the Two River Theater in New Jersey, in Red Bank, New Jersey. It ran for like 4 weeks. It got a, you know, like an unkind review in a well-known newspaper, and that was sort of it. You know, they hundreds of people went to see it, and that was sort of it.
Isn't it amazing how one review can do that initially?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very, it feels like a very old school, sad story in that way, but one that is not uncommon, unfortunately. But what was crazy was during that production, there were kids who were coming to see the show like 5 and 6 times, like these kids who lived in the town and like went to see all the shows at this theater, but they had never seen anything like this before. And so after that production closed, they had the great sort of idea to record a cast album, which usually does not happen after a 4-week regional theater run.
We're just going to scrap the deck and move on.
Exactly. Like, that's it. Everybody pack up, go home. You know, this was fun. So they made this cast album, came out in the fall of 2015. People listened to it. That was sort of that. And then a year and a half later, something started to happen online. It was like May, June of 2017, and the streams on the Cast album just started going through the roof. And YouTube videos and any content related to the show all of a sudden was like blowing up.
Wow.
And we were all sort of going like, what's happening here?
What the heck's
exactly.
going on? That really revitalized things, what it sounds like.
Yeah, and then our composer, took the show and shopped it around to some producers, a lot of whom sort of said, "Oh, you've got a lot of like internet numbers. What do these mean?" And they sort of walked away from it. But our lead producer is this fellow named Jerry Gehring, who is also a college professor, and he decided to license Be More Chill because the rights were available. He said, "Oh, this sounds like a fun show to do at my college," and he did it, and he saw people coming from all over Connecticut, where the college is, but like flying in from outside of the country to see a production of Be More Chill, and he was like, "What is happening here?" And so he decided, "Oh, let's do an off-Broadway production, just to see how it goes." So we were at the Signature Center over the summer. We had a 9-week run, which sold out the night before our first performance.
Wow.
And then after we opened, we extended for a week, and that extension sold out in about 6 hours. And so we went from this, it's really this sort of Cinderella story of us being like, well, like it seems like people love this show, but like who knows, are they going to come to it? Is this going to work? And it has gone, we've gone all the way, baby. We're on 45th Street now.
It's really insane. I mean, the show was basically dead. Nobody wanted to touch it.
Truly.
College kids and a college professor help you get back into it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you imagine what life would be like if people don't take that risk, you know?
It's very, our whole show is like a story of people believing in something that is not, on its surface, like obviously a safe bet.
Right.
People now at this point are like, oh, obviously, like you had all this like internet, like I was obviously going to be like this. And it's like, it was not obviously going to be like this.
Definitely not. Like old school theater producers being like, what do we do with all these YouTube views? Like that doesn't mean it's going to be ticket sales, but people who are smart enough to say, no, there's something happening, there's a current here, and you guys are still swimming.
What's funny about it, too, is that there is this conversation in theater and in commercial theater that's like, how do we get younger audiences into our theater as theater goers are continually graying out, is the industry term. How do we invite younger audiences into Broadway houses? And this to me is like, this is how you do it. You listen to them. Yeah. You give them the content that they're screaming for.
You find universal touch points, and you guys did that with Dear Evan Hansen too.
Yeah.
It's like, we're going to get into an issue that a lot of kids are dealing with, and we're going to put it on the main stage.
Yeah.
So what was it like seeing that whole thing grow?
The Dear Evan Hansen process was incredible. I spent a little over 4 years working on the show. When I first auditioned for it, I had no like major credits. I had done, my biggest credit to that point was a regional theater production of a show called The Black Suits, which was written by Joe Iconis, who wrote Be More Chill.
Oh, there you go.
He and I go way back. But before Dear Evan Hansen, I was sort of auditioning for it, and I was in the hallway with all of these like, Broadway actors, and I was like, I don't know, I'm not gonna get this. But I did. and
it certainly helped out.
Yeah, and what was great was over the course of the development, the creative team, especially Stephen Levinson, the book writer, and Michael Greif, the director, got really excited about me as an actor. And so a lot of what I ended up doing in Dear Evan Hansen was stuff that came from me. The costumes were sort of modeled after what I had worn to readings and presentations, and a lot of the lines were sort of adjusted to fit the lilt of my voice and my sort of inclinations. But that was another one where like people are like, Dear Evan Hansen, it's a massive hit, of course. And I'm like, actually, we were down in DC trying out a show that was a musical about a teenager who dies of suicide and another teenager who lies about being his friend.
Right.
It is not, on its surface, an obvious winner.
It's not a big box office topic when you think about those.
Correct. And the thing that I think the shows have in common is they're both really smart, well-written shows that have really true themes, and although they are about young people, they don't in any way sort of pander to young people. They're not like theater for young audiences kind of, it's not a kid's show.
Right.
It's like it's treating these younger human beings as exactly that. We don't sort of malign them as kids. We treat them with respect and complexity, albeit youth.
Sure, but there's depth to the conversation. So whether it's Be More Chill or Dear Evan Hansen, same thing with Billions. We were talking off camera. Like there is so much more to that show than just a hedge fund and bro culture. And then here you are again. You hop into the scene, and
maybe
again,
I'm finding my niche.
No, you really are. And it's like I was telling you before, like your first scene, like you just kick your feet up, and like you're able to make a statement in a show with so many characters. So first, just walk me through how you got that part, and then what was it like, playing that part so far?
This is a teeny tiny industry, and so what happened for me was the guys who are the head writers and showrunners, Brian Koppelman and David Levine on Billions, they came to see Dear Evan Hansen because it was a show that everybody wanted to see,
right.
And they really loved me, and they called me in to audition for that role, which was funny because I was in the casting office for like a half hour, which is like a long time to be there. And I saw not one other actor the whole time I was there, and had a very long conversation with the casting director about Beyonce, who had come to see Dear Evan Hansen the night before. And so we were sort of like, we chatted for like 20 minutes about Beyonce, and then at some point she was like, oh, we should probably read the scene.
You're like, yeah, that's why I'm here. I mean, I could tell you all about Beyonce, but I'd like to get this part.
And I got in the room and I read the scene a couple times, and then a few weeks later I was on set doing it. And what was really exciting was they actually that part was just meant to be that one day. It was meant to be this guy who comes in and interviews for this job and blows it, and gets kicked out. But they got the writers just got excited about me in the room that day, and we were chatting, and we were, sort of talking about, like, we had similar backgrounds and similar thoughts about the show and about art in general. And then they started writing more episodes for me to do later, and I've got more appearances in season 4, which is really exciting. Yeah, I mean, I'm very fortunate in that. Like, I've had a lot of opportunities come to me through the least painful means. The most painful being like a cattle call audition. The least painful being like meeting a writer or director or some other artist and being simpatico with them.
And you've taken advantage of the opportunities. Like Kelly O'Coin was here, $1 Bill, and same sort of thing. It was this small little part. He wasn't even sure if he was going to do the show. He says yes, and now he's a big time player in the new season. And same thing with you. It's like you say yes, you kill the part. You and Asia have a good thing going on, and then that whole storyline blows up, and it's just right place, right time. But also, I got to perform in the moment. So how do you make sure that you execute when the time is right?
I think there's sort of there's two elements to it. This is sort of like whenever I'm like speaking to a group of students, it's work hard and be nice to everyone, which is really like sounds very simple and corny on the surface.
It's a big thing to do in this industry.
But the truth is, like, I've never been in a situation. I have not been a professional actor for a super long period of time, but in the time that I have never walked into a situation where I was like, ugh, I'm over-prepared for this. When you get to the moment, you're always saying, God, I wish I'd looked at it just one more time. And so the way to help that is to look at it as many times as you possibly can. Like, there is no amount of work that is like too much work for this kind of job. And then be nice to everyone is this sort of twofold thing. One is, like, you never know the person who you meet who's a casting assistant this week or a stage manager or a PA.
This is a long-term game.
The person who is getting you coffee this week truly might be someone who holds the ability to give you a job in their hand in the future. So there's a very pragmatic, side of just like be nice to people, but it also affects the way that you experience these sorts of situations. Just putting that good energy out there, people see it and they reflect it back at you, and it just makes it easier to navigate an audition situation. Or like, I mean, that day on Billions was only my second time ever on a television set. And so I didn't really, like, I was nervous. I mean,
it's an intimidating thing. You think about all the different people involved with that.
And when you come from a theater background, you sort of get a lot of people talking to you about, like, oh, you need to, like, really, like, make it smaller for TV. You need to, like, gather it in. So I'm sort of sitting there going, like, oh, what am I supposed to do? It's like, it's a different kind of acting. And it's like, it's not that different. But, having positive energy, giving it to other people makes you believe that maybe you can actually do what you're here for.
So what's the biggest misconception about TV then? I mean, you mentioned that. People trying to say, keep it a little smaller.
Man.
What do you think?
Biggest, I'm totally not in a position to speak about this, but I think that the most interesting thing about TV that people probably don't know from the outside is just that it's like a wildly massive endeavor with a million moving parts. I mean, there are just so many people. And so many jobs are so compartmentalized. And so like in theater, like you grab your own props and you sort of like check your own costume before you go on stage. And like in TV, you've got wardrobe and hair people, and you've got grips who are moving things around for you, and that can be like the thing that I wish I had like checked out before I went there was like all of the things that people do and the difference in all the various jobs. The difference between an AD and a PA and all that stuff is not immediately obvious if you don't come from that background. So get yourself a glossary if you're a theater actor who wants to do TV.
So you've had some interesting experiences. Tell me the Beyonce experience. That must have been pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, it was amazing.
Well, Evan Hansen.
Yeah, we got what was very fun about Dear Evan Hansen and continues to happen with Be More Chill is when you're in like a very buzzy Broadway show, all these famous people want to come see it, and sometimes you get to meet them afterwards. And so I met like an incredible cavalcade of people doing Dear Evan Hansen. Yeah, Beyonce was definitely like one of the most sort of famous, shiny people I've ever met in my life. I mean, Katy Perry and Cory Booker came to the show, and some legends like Henry Winkler and people who I idolize like Richard Kind. All so many. I met Carol Burnett.
Oh wow, that's a great one.
It was an incredible thing, and already on Be More Chill, we've had some really awesome people. We just had Kelly Marie Tran visit the set. Kate Hudson was there last week. So
people start talking about it, and it's like the Hamilton thing. Like so many people are talking about it. Book of Mormon, same thing with Dear Evan Hansen. Now Be More Chill is in that category.
It's a fun little perk of the job to get to meet these people who you like, whose work you think is so incredible, and it's really like an incredibly powerful thing when someone can reflect back on you, like, hey, I'm an actor. Like when I meet an actor who I respect, and that actor makes some sort of observation about my work, it's an incredible experience. It's something that is just hard to describe.
Yeah, definitely. So you have theater going on, you have the TV thing. Do you see yourself doing both? Do you see yourself kind of going TV film?
Oh, I want to do it all. I want to do it all. I'm not, I think that some people like have a goal of like trying to do one for the other. Like, like if I do enough in theater, then I can move into TV, or if I do enough TV or film, then I can move into theater or something like that. I want to do it all forever. And the thing that I'm most excited about is I love working with writers. It's my favorite thing. I love sitting down with a script that a writer has never heard out loud and surprising them with how good they are. So I just hope I can continue to have that experience as much as possible. And I want to keep doing stuff that is like weird and subversive, stuff that like, Be More Chill is this show that on its surface is like, it's a big, bright, flashy musical about, kids and sci-fi computer brains. But deep down, it's actually about like real issues that affect not only young people but all of us. These issues of self-doubt and these issues of wanting to have simple answers to things. And so like I just want to do more of that. A show like Billions that purports on its surface to be about like macho bro culture, but really it's about like all of the sort of things that we do in private and in hiding, and the ways that we maneuver power and influence and things like that. So I don't know what I'll be doing in 5 years or 10 years or even 2 years, but I just hope that it can be more of stuff like this.
Well, this is the time to do it. I mean, think about all the great stuff between TV, theater, and film. I mean,
it's never been better.
It's a golden age, right?
Yeah, it's a golden age. I love the way that musical theater is re-entering the center of American culture in a way that it hasn't in years and years and years. I mean, between the way that Hamilton is blown up and now Fosse Verdon, and even like you look at like, the way that Glee changed the culture and sort of, and all these live musicals, but then also there's never been a better time to sit at home and watch your television and see a bunch of great Broadway actors on it.
That's true.
It's very, very exciting. It's an exciting time to be an actor.
Yeah, and everybody's crossing over, just like you.
Trying.
So why don't you tell everybody where they can check you out these days?
You can come see Be More Chill at the Lyceum Theater 8 times a week on Broadway in New York City.
Awesome. Good deal. Will, great to meet you.
Thanks
so much. We'll see you next time here on The Sit Down.